Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield. They just dropped an advanced search engine for Sorcery the Contested Realm. If you want to browse every available card or dig deep with powerful search filters, head over to sorcery.moxfield.com. You can even click on the search syntax button on the main page to see all the terms you can use. And don't worry, when new cards are revealed from official sources, Moxfield updates quickly. Now on to the show. All right, Phil, we kind of split up a lot of the avatars to try and figure out what we would be building. I took Imposter because I really like the idea of just being able to like switch up your game plan halfway through the game and pivot. So I decided that I wanted to take Imposter. I think that you probably would also have a pretty interesting build for Imposter, but it would be vastly different from what I came up with. So, with in the spirit of not tainting you, but tainting you anyhow, we're gonna go over what I came up with for Imposter.
Yeah, Imposter is one of those really compelling deck build arounds because what do you build around? If it's like, yes, it's really nice to be able to pivot and adjust based on like what you want to do in a given matchup, like walking into any given matchup. But that also assumes that then whatever you're doing, like whatever avatar your Imposter assumes, then has all of the tools necessary to like actually leverage whatever the ability that is.
Yeah.
So like one of the questions that has to be determined that I wasn't sure with FAQs that I figured we'd get into in this episode is, okay, Dragon Lord is in your collection. And so you can turn Imposter into Dragon Lord. Do you have to claim the unique dragon tied to Dragon Lord before you sit down? Like in your collection, does Dragon Lord need to be tied to a unique dragon? Or I think does that not happen until you're in game, in which case like you choose even more utility?
I think Dragon Lord is one of the and we're gonna go over all of the avatars just to show what could and couldn't be first. I think Dragon Lord's one of the ones that if it's not your avatar, it doesn't have text until the game begins. And so then you don't get to just set aside a unique dragon for Dragon Lord. So I'm going to say that Dragon Lord's one you can't use. I might be wrong on that, but it just
Dragon
doesn't
Lord
make
sense
sense
before setup, right?
Yeah, before setup, assuming that's your avatar.
Well, that's an implicit rule then that would be tied to Imposter is if Dragon Lord is anywhere in your 100, including as if your avatar, do you then set up a unique dragon? Because if you do, that can sort of be a nice first guideline. At least when I was thinking about Imposter, is like, okay, well, if I have Dragon Lord, what are the bases Dragon Lord could cover? Like, what is the best utility that Dragon Lord can cover?
I can tell you because there's some FAQs already.
Great.
You cannot. You do not get to pick unique dragon for Dragon Lord. So
okay, so Dragon Lord only lets you cheat dragons into play.
Yeah. The other one is you don't get the roll for the Harbinger summon either. So those beginning of the game effects that they don't exist. Dragon Lord and what's it called? Harbinger would be bad choices, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good to know. So any of the setup avatars are not functional with Imposter. Yeah. I think like the baseline stuff for Imposter is like just the ones that are super advantageous. So like early, like you have to think that the Imposter gets better as the game goes longer because you'll have more options to turn into more avatars. But if you that would also assume that you'd want to change your avatar more than once, and 3 mana is a steep price, man.
Yeah, Well, there's some deck building costs to that as well, and I'll explain those. Like first, let's just go over each of the avatars really fast. Like this shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. It's just like, could this work or will it not work with Avatar? So I'm gonna share over on Corefield, over on Moxfield for Sorcery, and we're just gonna go down the list of avatars real fast. That would work. Right? You may cast magics in your hand as spirits. That works.
It makes it so that the cost, like having to figure out the balance of, okay, it costs 3 mana and a turn because Imposter has to tap, right?
No,
it doesn't have to tap. Okay, so it's just 3 mana, so it's a tax. So it's a 3 mana tax on top of anything else that you would otherwise do, which makes me think that like Animist is like you would have summoning sickness with it, right? Like you'd spend 3 mana to turn into Animist and then not be able to make a square stated thing until next turn, which might be too slow given the matchup. But yeah, as a first of 10, Animist does work.
Will it Imposter is the question here. Archimago, it will Imposter.
Archimago is just like an easy inclusion to gain flashback. Like, 3 mana gain flashback for a couple of turns. That seems pretty great. That obviously,
assuming you put some threshold of magic into your deck. Yeah, this works. Avatar of Air is another one that I think that works great.
It works great, assuming again that you are aligned restrictions. You have to be aligned to its element. But yeah. Movement is so like right now we have a way to raise the floor on cards, the way to raise the ceiling on cards, and a way to get movement. So that's pretty good for the first 3.
Avatar of Earth works as well. I mean, it will allow you to actually attack with your Imposter. So there's that. Again, these all have deck building requirements that you're playing some number of that kind of site. Avatar of Fire and Avatar of Water also work. Whether or not they're good enough is its own thing. Battle Mage is interesting because Battle Mage will work, but you're attacking with a 0 power Avatar.
No,
not exactly where you want to be.
So gain 3 power.
It gains its abilities, it says. Gain their abilities until damaged.
Okay, and power is not tied to abilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
Blade Dancer.
So Battle Mage ostensibly doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're gonna pump up your Imposter. But the idea is is this text even relevant? Like, can it work at all with the Avatar? The answer is yes. Same thing with Blade Dancer. Again, there are costs to all of these things. You have to play magics with the Animist and Archimago. You have to be playing the specific sites for the Avatar of Water, Air, Fire, and Earth, right? Battle Mage, you'll need to pump up your Imposter if you want to attack with them. Same thing with Blade Dancer.
And that's a good point to then to tag is as you're putting together your collection and the things that your Imposter is likely going to turn into first. Like if you sat down in the dark, what is the optimal sequence that you'd want to have turn your Imposter into until something tells you otherwise? And the avatars that want similar things. So like Battle Mage really wants to square up 1v1 against a minion, where Blade Dancer really wants to square up against a bunch of smaller minions. So if they both want equipment, for lack of a better word, to like build themselves up, but then want to start tangling, but do it in different ways, that's a way that they can complement each other with the same suite of spells in your spellbook.
Also, an important note, if you choose Battle Mage or Blade Dancer, after this happens, after you do this thing, you will have damaged your avatar, so the mask will have fallen off. So not ideal, but it can work. Corruptor works if you want to be that deck and play with beasts, mortals, or undead to turn them into monsters, beasts, mortals, or angels to turn them into monsters, undead, or demons. I suppose that's a plan.
I think that with something like that, where Corruptor is just giving you the ability first, like you just get to have that ability anytime you want. It supposes that like 3 mana is a lot, right? 3 mana is a lot to turn your avatar into something else, and it also is requiring slots in your collection that could be used for other things.
Correct.
So
it better be worth it.
The cost up front is really steep, and so in order to do that profitably, you really have to endeavor into something where you wouldn't just be better committing to another avatar, right? Like if you're like, okay, well, I always want to be the Corruptor first because I'm going to do all these things. Well, then why aren't you just Corruptor? And that's going to be a question that continuously pops up with anybody brewing with Imposter. Is
the other question is this avatar good to begin with? Because I don't think Corruptor is actually playable.
Yeah.
Death Speaker works if you're on that plan. If you have a bunch of Genesis guys in your deck, you could do the Death Speaker plan. It really comes down to, is that the way you want to build your deck? And then why aren't you just playing Death Speaker, right? Dragon Lord doesn't work. Druid, I guess Druid does. If you played a site and you don't control Tawny, yeah, I guess you could get a Tawny out of this. So, right?
I had the question of because it says tap and then you flip the Druid, right?
The flip is not going to happen.
Right, but if the flip doesn't happen, does that mean that you don't get the bear?
You would, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't get the bear because you'll flip your imposter and nothing will be there.
Well, it can't flip because it doesn't have
Exactly.
a backside, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
if it can't flip, that means you can't get the bear. So putting druid in your collection would really just mean you pay 3 mana to get a tawny.
Yeah. I mean, I'm merely guessing on whether or not you could actually flip your imposter because it does gain the abilities of the druid. So we could, there's an argument that we could assume that you do get the bear, but I honestly don't think that druid is good enough. Although, like I said, if you want to get a guaranteed get a tawny out of it, that is an option for you.
I think if the ruling is such that imposter assumes that it gets both text boxes, so it could see the backside. If the ruling is that, then I think druid is valuable as just 3 mana access to tawny and bruin.
Yeah. Duplicator does not work.
Doesn't do anything for you.
Like that doesn't do anything that you're not already doing. Elementalist is interesting because there might be a situation where you want to play 3. You pay 3 to fix your fix your threshold.
As I'm forgetting the name of the site, but what's the site where you pay mana to gain threshold for the turn?
That is Annual Fair.
So that card comes up a lot and is really valuable in a lot of circumstances. Like that level of consistency, just as a mana sink, is pretty valuable. I found on paper, it always seems like, man, why am I not just playing, another site that provides elements, but like, or provides threshold? But that I found that comes up a lot in a bunch of different scenarios where I'm like, oh, well, I get to be a little bit greedier by having this site and then just paying a little bit more mana. And usually I never miss that mana. It comes up sometimes, but like more often than not, the fair just like helps fix me in a way that's really, really profitable. And so I think Elementalist is the first one that's just like very clearly, regardless of what's in your spell book, like this is the one that makes your collection. I think this is the first A+ that makes the collection.
Assuming that you have a 3 or 4 color deck, right?
Well, even like assuming that like you can splash whatever you want, like by having Elementalist in your collection, it means that any single threshold element spell you will have access to, regardless of other sites in your deck, because you can pay. It'll have a 3 mana tax on it, but that 3 mana gains the threshold, cast that spell. Like
sure,
that is a functional utility that's really profitable.
Yeah. Enchantress would work, but I would caution you to ask yourself why you aren't playing Enchantress.
It's another one of those where it's just like, if you're going to do the thing that Enchantress asks you to do, why aren't you just Enchantress? It's going to be a hole that Imposter is going to have to fill for everybody.
Now, I saw a build Roaring Turkey put up, and I'll link that up here, where your Imposter is playing the Flame Collar plan, but your opponent doesn't know that until you switch over to Flame Collar and get them, which is pretty cool.
Some gotchas, yeah. I mean, that's like, at least that's one of those things that has a plan. Like, is there an avatar that you wouldn't want to give that information away to? But then, if your opponent's on the level, do they? Yeah. At what point? I guess as long as Imposter's is just a very off the beaten path brew, like until there's something that resembles anything that's relatable to something you'd encounter in a metagame, that you can get people like that.
Yeah. Geomancer would work, and I think it's fine, but again, it's a build around, right? Harbinger does not work. Imposter, I don't know why you would do this to yourself. I don't think you can.
Dude, if you Imposter, so avatars considered unique?
Yeah, they are. I don't think you'd be allowed to do this.
So you can't Imposter into Imposter?
I don't think you can.
Because that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. Just as a flex, you're like, I got all this mana, I don't even need to use it, but I'm going to. Imposter into Imposter, idiot.
Yeah. Interrogator is one that I think is definitely playable.
Yeah, it's broad enough.
Right? Whenever an ally strikes an enemy avatar, that you draw a spell or they pay 3 life. I think that's a perfect like utility thing that's happening at a specific part of the game where you maybe have 3 mana already open and you're like, hey, I want to start drawing cards. I'm going to start attacking my opponent or put him closer to death's door, Yeah,
it's broad enough that it's broad enough without asking for anything specific, and unspecific is good for early Imposter picks.
Yeah. Ironclad would work.
Same
as
thing,
well,
yeah,
if you're
it's
trying to go tank. Magician would not work. I mean, you would be able to play a site, but like that's a worse version of every other avatar. Necromancer works.
Necromancer does work and is just an additional mana sink for when you just need to go up resources. Like
create rectangles.
It's 4 mana to get that first skeleton, but I mean, there are worlds where you'll be like, well, I don't necessarily want to be necromancer, but then there are a world where you're just like, yep, I just really need some bodies. I think necromancer is obviously an easy pick.
Pathfinder's pretty sweet because
Pathfinder
that adds
is cool.
movement, right?
Yeah, Pathfinder is free movement. The question that I would have for Pathfinder is it a legal thing to turn into if you do have duplicate sites in your atlas?
Yeah. Again, it's just like that starting position thing where you're just like, this is what I'm doing.
It says your atlas can't have duplicates. So like, essentially the question would be in
you
rules.
gotta call a judge and get disqualified immediately.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you do have duplicates in your atlas, and then you are Pathfinder, your Pathfinder says that you're not allowed to do that.
Well, so remember, it says it gains their abilities. That is not an ability.
That is an ability.
That is that is a rule that is on Pathfinder.
That's an ability. It's a rule, but it is an ability.
I guess you might be right. I don't know. I think the answer is yes. You would be able to use it, but I truly don't know. Let's assume yes for now.
Let's assume yes, but that would be a judge call, because like if it's an illegal game state that you have to fix an illegal game state and then you can't do that the game freezes. Like, how does that work? That would need a specific ruling.
Yeah. All right.
Get in the comments. Let us know, because if so,
someone's gonna know for sure. Yeah.
Pathfinder is a great pick if it is a legal option.
Yeah. Persecutor. Again with the movement situation here. Right. Realm Eater. Realm Eater. Again, you would get that ability, but if you aren't, I want to say that if you have a 0 power, you're never successfully attacking a site because you're not doing damage to the site.
Well, it says successfully attacks, not successfully damages. So
yeah, I would be.
I think Realm Eater is a slam dunk. I think it just lets you destroy sites.
If it works, it's a card that I think is interesting to put in there.
It says successfully attacks, not damages. I think it's totally clean, and it's definitely something you want. And you just get to change into another avatar if you want to become immobile without digesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it's site removal.
We'll wait till someone tells us otherwise and assume that this is viable without having to pump up your avatar. Savior. Savior works.
Yeah, there can be positions where you're like, yep, I'll spend 4 mana for a ward just to, get some sort of
4 mana plus the cost of my minion that I played, right?
True. Yeah, that's going to be very expensive.
So this is one that I think like would work on the next turn, along with Seer, that also works on the next turn, because you would pay 3 for the Seer and then you'd have to wait a full turn cycle. Hopefully you don't get damaged during that time.
Yeah, it's not great.
Sorcerer definitely works.
Sorcerer is easily the best one, and the one that I would assume you would like default blanket into as your first pivot. But then there are times where like the other effects, like yes, drawing a spell is always a delight, but there are positions where you'd rather affect the board, and so I can see where you'd move away from Sorcerer. But Sorcerer just has like a blanket, easy first thing that you pull out of your collection.
Pay 3 mana to draw a card.
Like, I'm pretty sure that Sorcerer would always be just at the top of my collection, because it's always the thing I'd reach for first.
Yeah. Spark Mage would work. Target nearby location and deal damage to a random minion equal to the number of air threshold you've cast this turn. That works. Spellslinger works. You're just not going to start with 4 spells in your hand. It's just you're just doing the same thing you're already doing.
Does nothing, yeah.
Templar works, but again, I'd caution you, if you want to do this, then why you're not playing Templar?
Templar's another specific avatar. It's compelling you to. It's asking you to do something specific, and so why would you not just be that instead of Imposter? I wonder if there's a way to blend that though. Like, let's say you were I'm going to like be Templar to get. I'm going to turn my Imposter into Templar, get the benefit of that, even though I just spent 3 mana. So like, you have to get big. You got to somehow offset that 3 mana initial discount. But then afterwards, when the game has gone long, you're like, all right, well, now that we've traded a bunch of these knights, let me turn into Death Speaker real quick and like get some advantage back.
Yeah.
There's a way to do that.
Since none of your knights have ETB abilities for the most part. There's a couple, but that would be a weird choice.
There's worlds where you like what you do
but it. You might want to switch over to Sorcerer at that point and just draw more cards.
Yeah. Well, you can't switch back after you've used it, right? You banish it. So
yeah, you do banish it. Once you've used an avatar as a mask, it's gone from your collection. Wave Shaper, again, Wave Shaper works. You just have to, it's just saying, hey, you need a body of water. And Witch is pretty interesting, although and Witch has a lot of utility, but I don't know that paying 3 to either -3 power someone's avatar, or make them lose 2 life, or taxing them for a turn is really worth it.
Well, I think that
I
which is
think
actually which is the first one to me that like clearly has targets if you were to sit down from an opponent. If you sit across from Battle Mage and then you just turn into Witch and like turn off their
you
power,
know, -3 them. Yeah, okay.
that's like a reliable.
Problem is you have to tap to do this, so you're asking yourself to stop playing the game to make your opponent's plan like slightly less good.
Well, that is worth a turn if it's time walk, right? Like if you're like, okay, I'll spend 3 mana, turn off your avatar from being able to beat, go, you do your thing. It's like, all right, well, I wasn't able to develop a site, but I was still able to move any of the minions that I potentially had, or just like, you know, get on the board early enough. Like, regardless with what just because you need to get to 3 mana fast, I assume that you're going to like we're gonna look at your deck list in a second, and I would be very surprised if I didn't see every core in that thing.
Yeah, well, that's the first thing. So I'm going to share my deck list here. This is my Imposter mid-range deck list. Hey, everybody. You know it would be both unique and exceptional if you joined us at patreon.com/eternaldurtles under the Magicians tier to get all of our sorcery content.
By joining us, you help us pump out more elite content for you.
Now back to the show. And of course, yeah, I'm playing every core in the suite of cores that I can play.
Yeah.
And a key. And I have thought about including a shrine as well, shrine to the Dragon Lord,
dude,
as well.
As just a way to try and offset what Imposter asks of you with its mana activation, I would be playing the off-color core. I would lean into any of the things that give me incidental mana on an artifact. Like you lean into that just to offset. Like you need to get ahead on mana in order to convert that. Like Imposter, assuming that Imposters being able to turn into any other avatar is a viable strategy to begin with.
Well, it's also is this your A plan? Is doing Imposter your A plan? My A plan isn't do Imposter.
Yeah. I'm just saying that like whatever Imposter's utility is providing you, like you gotta like either slow the game down to the point where you can spend that mana to get there anyway, or skip development to some degree so you can get to the stage where you can then play like oppositional avatars to your opponent.
Well, let's start with what I have in my collection. I'm playing Animist, I'm playing Archimago, I'm playing Interrogator, I'm playing Necromancer, I'm playing Sorcerer. So what I am saying here is I have several pivots here. I can get into a long protracted game with Necromancer and just keep creating keep creating rectangles and put my opponent into a position where they have to deal with the fact that I've got a bunch of rectangles on the board in late game when we're both low in resources, right? Interrogator allows me to convert attacks into draws specifically. If I'm doing damage, great, that's also fine. My deck is you can see I'm pretty creature heavy, pretty minion heavy here. So I am attempting to attack. So the Interrogator, I think, especially with the number of airborne minions I have, and I have a few Voidwalk minions as well, this is a fine plan to have. And then I'm saying, of course, like you said, Sorcerer is like an auto include. You just like, there are going to be times when you're just like, I'm going to pay 3 and draw a card and just get back into this game, or go over the top and make it so that you have to deal with the fact that now I have, with the amount of cores I have in play and the sites that I have in play, I can double spell. I can just start getting 2 spells a turn and just start converting that way, right? Animist and Archimago are sort of doing a similar thing where they're saying, am I playing enough? I'm playing 26 magics and 27 minions. Am I playing enough magics? I think the answer is yes, to convert with either one of these 2 cards. What's nice is that
like you never need to turn into them if you don't want to. So you only turn into those avatars when it's a relevant ability.
Exactly. Yeah. So the thing too is in an ideal scenario where the game is going really long, I can start by going Animist and saying I am going to start playing my spells as creatures, right? Here's a creature, here's a creature, here's a creature, just doing that, right? Then as they die, I can say, oh, cool, I'm going to switch up to Archimago and start casting them. So that's an option as well. So what I've got here is a range of plans depending on how the game is going for me. And if the game just goes normal and all my imposter is doing is playing cores and keys and pumping out mid-range dudes and casting pretty good spells, that's a spot that can just happen sometimes.
Zach, I'm actually pretty surprised that there are 2 avatars not in your collection.
I did have Witch and Realm Eater in here initially, and I thought about Pathfinder as well, but I decided not to play them. What are the 2 that you're thinking?
I was thinking about Realm Eater and Witch.
Yeah, I thought so. They were the last 2 to leave. I did realize that I wanted Toolbox because I wanted to be able to have the option to look through my collection for some spells. So one of the first ones is Murder of Crows as an ordinary spell. This is for a couple reasons. One, if your opponent has a bunch of little guys on the board, you can just be like, I'm gonna just wipe this. I just need to get back in this game. I'm just gonna wipe this, and everything's gonna be fine for me. All of my guys are for the most part bigger than this. And it's all enemy minions as well. It's not just all of your minions. So you can do some profitable trades here if you know that things are bigger. Swing all of your stuff into certain spots, and then be like, okay, I'm gonna deal 1 damage to everything else, and now everything dies. But you can also cast this again by banishing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Murder of Crows is just 6 mana, 2 damage to everything on land is also really good.
Yeah.
I guess everything on the surface, so it's even better.
Minor Explosion is a nice little finishing card. Sometimes you just need to like do enough damage to your opponent to get them off the board.
Do you think that's more valuable if the goal is to have the finishing card? Like if that's what this role is for, like this card is for the Death's Door hit, isn't Zap more efficient?
I just like this because if you're in that part of the game, Zap costs what?
2? 1.
Zap doesn't need to cost, like, I'm going to have the 3 mana. So I can use this in other scenarios where my opponents build up a bunch of guys on one spot, and I'm just like, haha, goodbye.
Yeah, totally. Like, Minor Explosion has more utility.
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you are toolboxing, so you're spending toolbox, plus you're going to get the Minor Explosion, it's a 5 mana play, and requires position. If that is more valuable to you, I don't know, like where the rest of we'll talk about the rest of the list. But if Minor Explosion's utility is worth having better than like I want toolbox as a way to kill you at Death's Door, I would think that like Zap is the more efficient way to do that. But like less so like me convincing you one way or the other that you should go with Minor Explosion or Zap. Like you have a better understanding of the list that you put together. But like that is going back to our collection episode, which you can watch in the link above Zach's head. That when putting something into your collection, having an idea of like, I want this card for this purpose is like, yes, utility like can be valuable, but it can also clunk you up. Like it can get in the way of like when you're playing something as a toolbox and you want something specific, having something that is specifically for a role is a valid way to start your deck building. And then if you recognize you're like, man, every time I'm looking at my collection playing this toolbox, I have this Zap, and I realize that like Minor Explosion would actually provide me this utility for this circumstance that I'm running into because of this the way my deck is playing out against XYZ. This would be a better change. It highlights, and it goes both ways, right? Like you're going to start with Minor Explosion. You're going to get in positions where you're like, oh man, my opponent's at Death's Door, and I'm nowhere near them, so this Minor Explosion doesn't kill them. But if it were Zap, it would. Like you'll run into that spot and in testing and recognize which one would be a better option.
I think it's going to be rare that I need Minor Explosion to end the game. I think Minor Explosion for me is a card that will end the game if I need it to, but most of the time it's just going to be getting rid of a couple of guys that are sitting on a site. Almost everything in here is trying to trade on more than 2 cards. So if you look at Barry's the only card that I have in here that is basically just like, it is what it is. I'm just like, sometimes also, you need to get rid of a big guy.
Does Murder of Crows hit units?
It hits all enemy minions.
Yeah, so it doesn't hit units. It's not good at Death's Door, yeah.
Yeah. So then I'm playing Gift of the Serpent, which gives a minion lethal and draws a card. So there's your 2 for 1, right? Like you're casting this and then drawing a card. And then Gift of the Raven, which will allow me to gain life for a strike and then draw a card. So these are just cards that will allow me to trade on Archimago later on and go up cards.
I was gonna say the cantripping ordinaries out of Gothic are just like absolute like. I mean, if that doesn't make an Archie player just
of
get all
course.
hot and bothered, I don't know what does.
So let's talk about our minions here. Of course, I'm playing Highland Princess because I've got
course.
some 1 mana cores.
But of course,
I'm playing Grigory Rasputin, who is a spellcaster, which is important, right? But I can banish an evil ally and cast him from my graveyard, and then he adds their. I can cast Grigory Rasputin from my graveyard, and he adds their power and abilities to his own. So I have some evil minions here, I've got a Pith Imp, which is, that's fine. Pith Imps are great. But I also have Renatus Trueblood. I have the Bone Hellkite, which is pretty sick. And then I also have the Dapperel Vampires. So this basically just allows me to recur this guy. I can play him early and then recur him after my Dapperels and my Truebloods and my Bone Kite die.
and it's also just an early on rate minion, which is fine.
Yeah, he's totally fine for that. Then I'm playing Kettlecore, Kettletop Leprechaun, of course. Everyone knows the value of this guy. But a new card that I think is really good and I think is super underrated, and I haven't heard anybody talking about it yet, is Pith Imp.
Is it really underrated? Like, maybe it's just you and me talking to each other all day.
It's probably just you and me.
Like you and I both understand how good Pith Imp is.
Pith Imp, basically, like, because your opponent starts with only 3 cards, right? They have to spend time drawing cards and drawing resources, right? There's a point in time where your opponent has to pivot to draw resources to stay into the game, right? If you get to a point where you get to Pith Imp on one turn and then followed up with an accusation on the next turn, even if you're not choosing with accusation, you're going to strip your opponent of their entire hand, which means that they're very less likely to be able to get rid of the Pith Imp. So for me, especially because they're airborne and they just can't be attacked randomly, right? These are great because getting your opponent, like, they're almost always going to trade for something better than a one airborne guy, right? So I really like Pith Imp, especially for this deck, because I'm the whole plan here is just to be like, okay, I'm just going to throw these guys all around the board so that you just lose resources for long enough for my mid-range guys to just swarm in and murder you.
Yeah, I've seen like Pith Imp where like you do Pith Imp and then you do the like cheap effects to like give your minions stealth.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you're just like, yep, I'm gonna Pith Imp and then I'm gonna stealth it, and now you're never getting that card back. But like I think also it's still early in the game, like early in Gothic, early in Sorcery's history of like effects coming into the game. And one of the effects that has come into the game, like you had Lookout, and you have some other like few and far between effects that let you look at your opponent's hand. But man, is information so much more powerful than it seems. Like just knowing like, oh, my opponent, like
especially
your
when
opponent's hand,
the information you have is you already know how many sites they have in hand, right? Unless they're playing Magician, right? You already know how many sites they have in hand. And now you know one of those spells, and they only start with 3, right? So there's a very good chance that you've taken 1/3 of their strategy away from them.
Also, when they tell you what they're like, every draw step, when they choose to draw a spell or a site, that gives away information, right? So like you can also leverage that where it's like, okay, they drew a site, played a site, but then didn't cast something, or they played a site but then didn't cast the like max amount, they didn't use all their mana on the previous turn. You're like, oh, so they're building towards something, let me Pith Imp, take that thing. The other aspect of it though is like you get to see some like positional assumptions, right? Like if you look at their hand, take a thing, but then also saw like, oh, they have a 3 mana charge minion that they can cast. I'm not going to put this minion in a position where that charge can tag it.
Yeah,
that's like,
and because it's airborne, it's very less likely to happen anyhow. But yeah,
well, no, I don't mean just that. I mean like going forward, be like, oh, I'm going to Pith Imp first to see what they have. Oh, they have a charge minion that can come down. I'm going to play my site this turn in a spot where they can't tag it, right? Like it's subtle, but like that information like can make the difference in a lot of spots, a lot of spots. Also, if you want to like, if you're thinking, okay, I want to cast this thing, but I need to untap with it, like I'm gonna check their hand. Let's say they have double removal spell, or they have 2 different kinds of conditional removal spell. Pith Imp will let you take one of them, and then you can potentially strand the other one. Like if they have a berry, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna position this this minion on water, or vice versa, or something like that, right? Like there are ways that you can play around certain kinds of removal, and if you can strand one thing and then like leave them with another, but then position yourself and then never have to walk into that removal ever, like you kind of blank more than one card, right? Like you can play around something even if they don't have it, but knowing that they have it means that it's not like there's brainstorm in this game. It's not like they can just convert that card into something else as the game goes along.
Yeah, it's stuck in your hand. So then I'm playing 2 Monstrous Lion, just for a little control. Sir Percival on rate is one of the better minions in the game still. And I just play this as a 4/5 for 4. Cool if my opponent puts me into a situation where I get to draw a card, but that's not what he's there for, really. I'm playing Witherwing Hero. I'm not sure that that's correct, but I wanted a certain amount of airborne minions in this deck. So I figured why not add it to the deck.
Also,
Then we've got
the other thing too is like just going back onto the Pith Imp plan. Like if Witherwing Hero is on the board with a Pith Imp and they do somehow get to hit the Pith Imp, that like okay, they get their spell back, but if they can't cast it that in that same turn, you can redeploy the Pith Imp and take it again.
Yeah. Then we've got Archangel Michael. I think
that should be self-explanatory.
This is one of the ones where like this is a lot of threshold, but I think that it's worth it to have a guy who just like smacks everybody for 4.
I think all of the angels that they printed in Gothic, these like big thresholdy angels that all just have very quality like rates, like these cards, like all those angels, like those are things where I imagine they just show up in random lists where you're like, what is this even doing for you? And you're like, I don't know, it's powerful.
Yeah, it's on rate, it's very good, and I think this is the best of all of them. Because this does something immediately. And then like I looked at a lot of the other ones, and I just didn't see the value in like Samael. It was interesting, but like it needs a turn to like really get going. Where Archangel Michael just works immediately.
Michael is the best one. To a less extent, you could say that Gabriel just drawing a card is fine,
sure.
But it's like like drawing a card versus Archangel Michael probably clearing an entire zone of the realm. It's like okay, like conditional, but Michael's probably better given that they come down into mid to late game. And then you could say that Raphael is like sort of there because it's just a way to like close a game really fast. But I don't think it's at the same level as Michael to go from like I'm behind. Wait a minute, I have Michael. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Then we've got Dapper Vampire. I don't think that needs any explaining. Hounds. Again, I don't think this is a card that needs much explaining, but having the Void Walk obviously works well with our interrogator plan.
Zac, I'm looking at this list so far. Do you have thoughts on, as we keep going? Do you have thoughts on curve? It seems like we're a little high.
We're hitting 5 a lot. Yeah. I want every one of my cards at 5 to be impactful, and I skipped 3 on the curve because one, I have some cards in the on the other side that I want to be able to double spell with, like Common Sense. So I want to be able to like hit Common Sense and then cast something else. But really, at the idea is to hit one of my cores for turn 3, like to through Princess or through just having a core, and then just move from 2 to 4 immediately. And then so I purposely did not use 3s very much, aside from a couple of cards. So we've got Landmass as well.
Zac, I think you just also what you just said right there. I just want to flag it because it's those types of things when people are talking about going through and building their deck, when they tell you about a line of play or a sequence that they're like, here's what I would like to do consistently, and then you recognize a card that would help with that game plan that's not in the list. You were talking before about whether or not to include Shrine, and you just told me that you wanted to go from 2 to 4, and that's exactly what Shrine lets you do, which goes, okay, then should not Shrine be in here? And I'm flagging that for anybody who, if anybody's doing what we're doing, where we're going through and building deck lists and things like that, like the moment when somebody says, I would like my deck to do blank consistently, like right there pause to figure out what are the things that are like, are you able to do that viably? And if not, what are the cards that are left out or not included that would help like steady that game plan? Like more often than not, you will like the stuff at the top end, you will get to deploy if the game gets there. But if you don't get to that point, that stuff will die in your hand.
Exactly.
So any of your top end is like, even regardless of how powerful it is probably not worthwhile enough to counteract being able to have the consistency of your early game being able to develop.
Yeah, agreed. And that so yeah, that's why this is also a landmass deck, of course.
Totally. Yep.
I did actually, while you were talking, I took Withering Hero out and threw in Shrine of the Dragon Lord. I think you're right. And Withering Hero was a card that I was kind of like, do I want this? Don't I want this?
Yeah.
The answer is no. I would rather have the Shrine of Dragon Lord.
Those cards also let you, like, given that there's the ordinary, exceptional, elite, unique aspect to sorcery, it also lets you like mulligan more effectively. If you're like, okay, my deck always wants to be able to go from 2 to 4 or 3 to 5, and you're like, does my opening hand let me do either of those things? And as long as you can do one of those things, then you know, okay, well, here's how I should sequence the first couple of turns, because I know that I want to go 3 to 5 or 2 to 4, and depending on which one that is, that'll let you like sequence that game a little bit better. But sitting down at the table knowing, okay, does my opening hand let me go from 2 to 4 or 3 to 5? Okay, I have these cards in my hand. Does that mean that I want to search for something that lets me go from 2 to 4 or 3 to 5? And that can also then inform which minions are more valuable for you to keep. Are you more consistently going to go from 2 to 4? Are you more consistently going to go to from 3 to 5? Going back to like the last deck build that we had, where you had both landmass and overflow.
Yeah,
overflow. Like that's an 8 ability deck that always wants to go from 3 to 5. And so once you're at 3 to 5, it's like, okay, well, if I'm doing that every single time, why would I ever play a 4-drop that's not giving me something insane?
Yeah,
because I would be stranding a mana, right? Like,
yeah. One of the things I would like to be able to do when we're doing this also is to like set this up by like sort it by mana cost, because that tells a better story, I think. But you know, we're just going through each type right now. Another card that I've kind of identified as being like worth the 5 mana is Master Necromancer. Being able to put like 5 rectangles on the board, including the Necromancer, and then also being able to get some value out of you know, any sort of evil, you know, bonuses that things have. Rasputin obviously isn't going to come back as a Necromancer skeleton, but this is a card that I think is just very good on rate, and can clog up the board and put you in a situation where like you can stay alive for a little bit longer.
I was always impressed by Border Militia when I was playing it in Archie, and Master Necromancer just being that like on a body, but you're guaranteed to get, like, assuming that the realm has developed in such a way where you're always going to get 4 bodies, like, yeah, just being able to be the deranged hermit of this game is really good.
Yeah. Renata's Trueblood obviously is just Dapro Vampire, but like slightly harder to cast. Why not have 5 of them in your deck if this is a thing you want to be doing? I know we talked before about the nerf for Druid and how this the way that the vampires are now you know, this vampire ability of strikes heal you, how that like powers down what's called control decks, but I think powers up mid-range decks, because mid-range decks are generally fighting aggro decks, and aggro decks are going to have minions on the board, right? I don't care about this if I'm playing against a control deck. I don't care what my life total is. I'm trying to be the aggressor, but against a control deck, sorry, against an aggro deck, I really do care about this. So yeah. It's kind of the change from Druid to like nerf Druid to nerf aggro decks, right? And then the change of this to nerf the control decks to get back into the game. This to me is a perfect card for a mid-range deck. So I definitely want to include them.
Zach,
Grandmaster Wizard.
Just so I know, for the Trueblood, the Trueblood and the Dapro Vampire are just functionally the same card except for the threshold difference, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
They're both in air, right?
Yep. 2 air for this one.
It's 2 air, but otherwise they're identical cards, correct?
Yeah, indeed.
Because the errata Dapro Vampire has been changed to only strike against units, right?
Yeah. And that was the case initially with Dapro Vampire. That ability only did and then
It was changed and then changed
in
back, right?
Arthurian legend.
Okay.
So now, so this ability, you know, again, I think it is exactly where a mid-range deck wants to be.
Also, what we were talking about before of like when you can get a certain threshold of a card in your deck, you now have access to 5 Dapper Vampires essentially, and that should inform how you navigate games where if your opponent is trying to like make attacks early, you should be able to leverage those attacks into like gaining better position for yourself, because your vampires should be able to pick up that damage later on.
Yeah.
And if
it also means that your
relying on
opponent can't feast for crows your Dapper Vampires and just be like, you don't have me.
Yeah.
Grandmaster Wizard, I don't think we
Best
need
card.
to talk about why
Zac,
you want
it's the best
Grandmaster
card.
Wizard in your mid-range deck.
Should we just do a spin-off episode just talking about Grandmaster Wizard where the only thing we say is that it's the best card?
Yeah, it is the best card of the game.
It's the best card.
And then Draconian Bone Kite, I just like this as a top-end silly card that, like, you know, if it gets into play, your opponent is going to be in a situation where they're like, I have to answer this, you know? And if they do answer it, right? What is this? From your cemetery, he adds power, banish an evil ally. So Gregory Rasputin has to banish an evil ally that is in play, it seems like. So that's a bummer to get him back. But, I mean, if you want to add 2... so you could do this. You could be like, I'm going to attack my Bone Hellkite, right? Boom. Or my Draconian Bone Kite. Boom. And then recast Gregory Rasputin, basically untapping your Bone Kite. You know?
No, it doesn't gain the abilities. It just gains the power.
Gains their power and abilities.
And abilities. Oh, never mind then. I always thought Gregory Rasputin is the best use of that was like, you play a minion, your opponent plays a bigger minion, and then you're like, oh, I need to now just trade that to make my minion bigger, and so you just Rasputin it.
Yeah, but you can't do this. You banish an evil ally that is in play, so that's an important have an FAQ. Must be in your cemetery. Use the ability, then you choose an evil ally with banish, which may be anywhere and not limited to your own sites. What does that mean? Anywhere? I think that means anywhere on the board, not anywhere as in maybe in your graveyard.
No, I'm reading that as like if you're on an enemy site, you can still banish your ally that's on an enemy site to put Rasputin on that enemy site.
Yeah. I'm just making sure. Since banishing is the activated ability, resolve the whole ability and banish a minion. Gains the power. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I'm pretty positive that you have to have this ally in play. You can't
Wait,
banish
did it just say resolves the Genesis? Can you get Regenesises with Rasputin?
Yeah. All the abilities.
Yeah, so it's just coming in as a copy.
You're just casting him from your cemetery to there, and it's
Click the
a copy
FAQ
with
again.
+2 power, basically.
Click the facts again, bro.
Mm-hmm. Resolve Genesis abilities.
And then finally. Wow.
Yep. Yeah. So then let's move to the magic here.
Bro.
Browse.
Unbelievable browse.
Yeah, browse, so good. I'm playing one blink here for my common sense because there are going to be times where you just want to like move guys around, and
totally
that
reasonable.
works into your instigator plan as well. Dispel as a common sense target, Border Militia as a common sense target, Bury as a common sense target, Landmass as a common sense target, and then any I don't know if there are very many. Oh yeah, I have Pith Imp and Leprechaun as common sense targets as well. So there are several common sense targets here that you can just go get and get a little bit of value on. Meanwhile, also, you know, some of these cards are really great with Archimago. Being able to cast them again is awesome.
The common sense package is just a way to support potentially moving into Archie is a nice subtexture to it.
I'm playing Accusation. I was playing Persecutor for a while in the side, but I think that Accusation is just fine by itself here. And even if your opponent isn't playing evil minions, it's probably okay to just be like 3 mana Mind Ravel you, because people don't play cards in this format that are bad, right? Like in this game, they don't play cards that like, oh, I'm just like playing this to get by on. Like almost every time you do this, you're going to get rid of something that your opponent did not want you to get rid of.
Yeah, that's reasonable. My only hesitancy with accusation is because you're not playing with a way to turn it on. It's the being in that 3 mana slot, which is not where the goal of going from 2 to 4, 3 to 5 ever is, and it's not helping you do either of those things. It is more disruption, but it's like the softer pith imp.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing: is it works really well with pith imp because then you're putting your opponent in a situation where, like, oh, I have 2 pieces of removal in my hand, so I'll just get rid of that pith imp and get the other thing, and then you follow it up with accusation, and it's like, oh god, I've just lost all of my plans. If you can get off both of these, and then the pith imp is just out there like popping in for 1 damage over on the side, like just being an annoyance. Meanwhile, you're also casting like just monsters, just actual like decent threats for the rest of the game. And while your opponent is like struggling to draw cards now to keep up, chances are that accusation is going to trade up on mana for the most part as well. So I just like accusation as a card that I want to test this out, but I'm pretty sure that most games that I win are because my opponent and I go trading resource for resource, and then I get to a point where I out resource him either in playing a card like Archimago, like playing a deck like that where it's like, oh, now I have more cards than you, or getting to a point where I'm like, okay, well, since you did this, I'll turn my aura into an enchantment or into a guy and attack and trade up that way. So this is a card to me that like I've always just kind of wanted a card that's just like discard a card from your hand. And I think that this might be just playable as I'm trading a resource for a resource situation and doing it proactively. Almost think of this as a counter spell that you have to cast on your turn, right?
I think of also the value of certain information asymmetric cards like accusation, like pith imp, feasted crows to some degree. That there is something to be said that if somebody were looking to play Imposter and wanted to also play with like a lot of these information asymmetry cards and looking for other information asymmetry cards like Lookout and things like that, that's then when Witch can actually be a pretty potent tool in the collection to turn into. Because when you have a lot of information asymmetry, that's really going to tell you when the taxing part of Witch is going to be most impactful to actually generate the most disruption. As opposed to like doing it blind and hoping that it works, or whether or not your opponent can play around it. But like knowing that information or having a means to continuously know information is a good way to know when taxing is really valuable. So, yeah.
And then we've got Feast for Crows, which if accusation works, Feast for Crows is an amazing follow-up, right? Knowing the exact card that you want to hit in your opponent's hand. And then, again, accusation and Feast for Crows work really good with Archimago if you want to get that value, right? Like, oh, now I know what's in your hand. I'll Feast for Crows, get a bunch more stuff out of your hand, or just rip apart your deck, right? And then you can start casting accusations off of your common senses with Archimago and just be like, we're just going to rip your hand apart, right? Landmass, we've already talked about why landmass is great, especially going from 3 to 5, right? In regard to going 3 to 5, you'll notice there are not any 4s over here, and we're talking about Earthquake and Poison Nova as our ways to like control the board with five total of these effects. We should be able to make it to turn 5 and kind of pivot the game around if we have to play the control deck against a really aggressive deck. I struggled to find a spot to put these Whirling Blades into, but I think that with Dapper Vampire, with True Blood, and I think Bonekite, no, not Bonekite, but with Dapper Vampire and True Blood, and even the sideboard, the collection Raven, Curse of the Raven, all of those things. Is it Curse of the Raven? It's Gift of the Raven. All those things just make Whirling Blades that much better. If you cast Gift of the Raven and then Whirling Blades and just like take 2 steps, strike everything, gain like 10 life, 12 life, and then attack something too, it's just gonna be ridiculous. And then Major Explosion to just finish the game out. This is another card that I just think like if you can support a large enough mana base to get this card out, this card swings games.
love me some major explosion. When I played in Archie, I was always like, man, why not play, like, there were so many Archie decks at the time that were only playing one major explosion and two craterize, and I was like, if we want this effect, I just don't see why we wouldn't start at two major explosion and then like before the two craterize. Like, in my mind, it was like two major explosion and a craterize is typically going to be better than one major explosion and two craterize, and then you can get to two explosion and two craterize if you want both. But like, to play the more expensive spell first always seems strange to me, given that like they were always just straight up like kill you.
Yeah. And then the sites, nothing crazy is happening here. I want to Wormwallow Tump in here to protect my graveyard so that I can do graveyard shenanigans with like Grigory and obviously with Archie. And then everything else is kind of just, like Perilous Bridge works with all my airborne minions. Tor is the thing that I want to be doing. City of Glass is dicey. But you can put on your back row, and I know it's not producing any mana, but it does get me from up to 5.
It provides 2. Oh, you mean any threshold?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I think like if as long as your threshold, if the rest of your atlas can support like where your threshold needs to be, I like all of the stuff where you're like, I really want to go from 2 to 4, 3 to 5, and the double mana sites.
And I'm playing one of each of the double mana sites with active Volcano for Lurth and
double
Mountain
Peaks.
Peaks.
Yeah.
And then obviously, Cloud City is interesting because moving your guy around a little bit could be something. It was a card that I was more interested in when I was trying to mess around with Realm Eater. Because then I can just put the Realm Eater and blink it back onto the Cloud City and move them around.
Dude, Realm Eater on Cloud City is just so dirty. Cloud City's so good.
But you still have to. He's immobile, so you still have to find ways to make him, allow him to move off of the Cloud City to attack. But
dude,
it does allow you to get around.
I as somebody like the last couple of episodes, I've just been telling you and everybody how like I've been fascinated by Body of Water, and Body of Water Realm Meter is not something that I've seen yet, but all of the movement where you just start moving your Realm Meter around.
Yeah.
It's like he's the Realm Meter's immobile, but there's a big high tide, and he's just like sort of floating over to the next one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the visual there is great.
Of course, Zach says, of course.
Yeah. Perilous Bridge. Like I think I've already talked about Perilous Bridge. Everything else. Obviously, all the dual sites.
Gotta have the duels. Gotta have duels.
But yeah, this is Imposter midrange. Check it out. There'll be a link below for it. And I suppose this is the primer, so we'll link the primer for this video in here.
I think that like the trajectory for Imposter, my assessment right now is, I think like in practice, I would assume that this strategy is going to have like the stuff where you're like, okay, I clearly have a plan between the vampires or the Pithim plus Accusation or the Common Sense Archie package.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like if all those things come together, like if one of those different avenues comes together, like, yeah, you'll have a cohesive plan. It's the trick is going to be, okay, how do we refine the curve such that we can sort of blend them as needed as we draw the component pieces of each rather than them together. And I think that is just inherent in Imposter right now.
Yeah.
Where there's like these disparate things that you're trying to look for ways to like bridge the gap. But the trajectory of Imposter will get better as more avatars get released in the long term.
Yeah.
And so my assessment of when looking at Imposter, I was like, I just don't think that the avatars right now are there to make it worthwhile than just being that avatar. But I think that like, as we can see what Imposter can do for other avatars, I look at Imposter as a really good way to put the Imposter lens on top of whatever other avatar you're building with, and then say, okay, if this became an Imposter deck, what are the things that I would remove from it, but then keep the avatar that I'm actually looking to build with? Because that'll give you like a clear-cut eye view of what your like actual foundation is. So like you have the Common Sense plus package for Archie, you have the Accusation plus Pithim thing, which I was saying for Witch, but that could also be like the value thing for Sorcerer and all of that stuff. Then you have the Undead Vampire plan, which would then maybe work if you were doing something on the attacking side of things. Like there's there's some cool nuance there where you can sort of like really isolate where an avatar the cards that an avatar wants to live with, and that can help you refine your other avatars. So like Imposter can be a good tool to like sort of see more clear-eyed your other avatars.
I think timing with this avatar is going to be everything as well. Something that I think that really leveled up my game was like learning, one, where to play sites, right? And when to draw sites. And I think with this one, the thing that's going to make you a good or bad imposter player is knowing when it's time to pivot and when it's time to stay on that avatar, or when it's time to be like, okay, like I'll just keep doing this avatar's thing until it's all used up. You know, like I'm going to do all of Archimago, and now I'm going to start drawing cards with Sorcerer to start doing that. Or it's time to go Animist. I'm going to start doing Animist stuff. Okay, now that I've done Animist stuff, it's time to switch over to Archimago. So like you really have it's really you know, the Zoomers are going to have trouble with this, Phil, because they don't know how to drive stick shift, right? That's my indication of whether or not this deck is going to be able to make it, is whether or not you as a player can determine when it's time to pivot, and if there is a right time in a game to do it.
Yeah. And along the lines of the pivot plan, if anybody was looking for like, oh, I really want to play with you know, an avatar that Zac didn't include here, you can look at the packages that he's included that are aligned to any given avatar that he's including, and then swap that with whatever package of cards you would want for the other avatar that you want to include. So like Zac, the ever strong Enchantress mage, if you wanted to play Enchantress, you could just put like the really powerful enchantments that, or auras that would be good in the deck anyway, you know, your plagues, your famines, or whatever. And then when you want to, similar to what Animist is doing, instead of like, he's got spells, but instead he could like swap in some enchantments and then pivot into Enchantress, and then use those spells to turn on the enchantments. So like there is still some room to play. I think that tons. I think that the real challenge of Imposter is not finding like the good cards to play with certain avatars, because every avatar is going to like be good with a certain subset of cards. It's really going to be, how can you bridge the gap between
how
them?
can you
like,
combine them?
That's really, I think, the challenge of what Imposter's doing. And I think that like your deck here is like a really like between the common senses and the toolboxes is a way to like sort of bridge the gap between a couple of different ones, is a really good baseline to start with for people to start like exploring on their own.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. Remember, you can comment Dragon Lord 1000 until we hit 1,000 followers, and we will include you in that Dragon Lord drawing. We're at like almost 800 subscribers at this point, which is amazing.
Also, if you're brewing with ideas of your own with Imposter or any of the new Gothic avatars, and you want to share those ideas or talk about those ideas, feel free to write that in an article. I will publish you on eternaldirtles.com. We've been picking up a lot of the sorcery content on the site, and it's been awesome so far. The feedback has been exceptional, and I'm really proud of like where it's going. So if you want to share ideas, please feel free to DM me or hit me up on any of the socials at Force of Phil, and I'll happily help you get your ideas published on the site.
With that said, as always, you can check out our Patreon to get these episodes early and ad-free, and we will catch you on the flip. Have a good one, everyone. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you get a moment, remember to like and subscribe to the video.
Also, don't forget to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/eternaldirtles in the Magician's tier.
Your support means a lot, and it helps us keep pumping out this content. Thanks so much.
Keep contesting the realm.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you get a moment, remember to like and subscribe to the video.
Also, don't forget to join us on Patreon at patreon.com/eternaldirtles in the Magician's tier.
Your support means a lot, and it helps us keep pumping out this content. Thanks so much.
Keep contesting the realm.